Hello IB Psychology students. This is a short video on the introduction for your IA, which is due next week, at the end of next week. And I want you to write your first draft now. And I'm going to explain what it needs to include. In your Flex booklet, you have all the information you need. If you go page 39, you will see you have some very detailed instructions on how to write your IA report, and it gives you some details about what you need to include and not include. The word count for the whole thing is between 1,000 and 1,500 words. People usually find it very hard to stick to the word count because they write too much. So don't worry about not writing enough. You need to be concise because you will struggle to fit into that word count. The word count should include the following sections: introduction, method, results, and discussion. And the two chunkiest parts will be the introduction and the discussion, although the discussion is much more important. And the main mistake most students make is that they spend too many words on these first three sections and they don't leave enough for the discussion. The discussion is worth many more points than the rest, so you need to leave a lot of space for that discussion to happen. You do not need to count the following in your word count: the abstract, the title page, references, the section headings, all the citations, the graphs, charts, and appendices. So your IA will look much thicker than 1,500 words. There is a very specific structure to your IA report, and it needs to have a title page, an abstract, an introduction, a method section which includes design, participants, materials, and procedures, a results section, a discussion section, references, and appendices. We will go through each of those sections, but right now the one that we're interested in is introduction. You do not need to have conducted your experiment to start writing your introduction. You can write the introduction without having conducted the experiment. That's why we're starting with that. That's what you need to do now, is start writing your introduction. So you need to make sure in your introduction, it's only worth 2 marks, but that's out of 20, so it's actually worth 10% of your mark. So you don't want to lose marks at this stage. It should be something where you get 2 marks out of 2. There's no reason to lose marks in the introduction. It's not difficult. So according to the mark bands, the study that you're replicating must be very clearly identified, and that includes the full references of the original study. Details must be explained, so you are putting some details in there about the original experiment, how they conducted it, the results, the method, and all that. And the aim must be clearly stated and appropriate. It doesn't say that you should include the IV and DV, but I personally recommend that you do. Some of the common pitfalls are that the study is identified but not explained at all. So you need to include, that's what I recommend, you need to include a brief background for the study replicated. So when was the study conducted? What was happening at the time? Why were they conducting that study at that point in the history of psychology? Very brief, okay, very brief background, just a couple of sentences. Complete details of the study being replicated, including the aims, the procedure, methods, results, conclusions. So what the results meant and how important was that study. Okay, then you'll explain how you're going to replicate that study. So you might want to say you're simplifying it, for example, you're only using 2 conditions of the several conditions they were in the original, that kind of thing. And you're explaining your method very briefly. The aim of your study, that's critical. If you don't include the aim, you actually will not get 2 marks for this. This is probably the most important thing, okay? And in the method of your study, I would actually include a very clear IV and DV. And remember, my advice for IV is always to start with the word whether. So if you say the independent variable was whether this or that, then you're pretty sure you'll have a clear independent variable. And then you can include a hypothesis, but you don't have to. And please don't include a null hypothesis, because that's only for HR. So this is your job for now, and it's going to be due at the end of next week. So I will give you the exact dates in class, but that will be graded. It will be a formative assessment, and so make sure you do read that document very carefully and you start writing. The whole thing should not take more than a page, and you need to be careful not to write too much. So if you can include all the details that I recommend you include, but in a very condensed form, you probably will end up with a good introduction. Some of the introductions you've been given as examples are actually too long. So make sure you condense as much as you can, between half a page and a page. Okay? And if you have any questions, just email me or come see me.